お待たせしました。続いてのタイトルは、エンダーマグノリアルームインストとなっております。こちらのタイトル、解説のごは現在ございませんので、わかりますよという方、そういったことがありますよという方、いらっしゃいましたら、いなくても起きてらっしゃいましたら、ぜひ解説に応募していただいたり、チャットにコメントをいただいたりできると、大変助かります。こちらのタイトルを私は遊んだことがない。横スクロールだっけみたいな、記憶しかない。ので、なおのこと皆さんの力が欲しいなと思っております。カテゴリがエンディング A って書いてありますが、どれだ2% かなそうですね。スピードランドとかを見る限りは多分2% のエンディング A でしょう。いや、でも、難易度がなんかあると。ノーマルとカスタムみたいな難易度の違いがあって、どっちなのかがよくわからない。いや、でも1時間6分。カスタムかなカスタムだろうな、多分。公式サイトとかを読もうかな。よく知らないタイトルは、公式サイトやスチーム様を見るのがいいよな。エンダーマグノリアは、滅びゆく煙の国縁の国を旅して、人とホムンクルスの救済を目指す、ダークファンタジーの探索型 2D 横スクロールアクション RPG です。探索型 2D 横スクロールアクション RPG、メトロイドマニア系って言われるようなジャンルなのかしらん。舞台は魔法と機械文明が発展して上に積み上がり、階層化した魔法大国。捨てられた旧市街、血塗られた研究所、荘厳な魔術学院、巨大工場など、独特かつ美しくも残酷な世界が広がっています。旅の先々で待ち受けるのは、狂気に落ちた人を助けるはずのホムンクルスたち。恐るべき強敵たちと戦い、魂を解放することで彼らはライラックの仲間になってくれます。なんだ普段の旅の果てに救えるのは人かホムンクルスか。ライラックっていうのは物語を見ればいいのか。舞台は地下に眠る膨大な魔力資源によって栄えた魔法大国。円だか煙だかの国。 発展の末に生み出された人工生命、ホムンクルスは、輝かしい未来をもたらすはずだった。地下から吹き上がる汚れた煙を、ホムンクルスを狂わせ、暴走する怪物へと変貌した。ホムンクルスを救済する力を持つ超烈士ライラックは、滑走深くの地下の実験場で目覚め、この国の悲劇に大きく関わる一人のホムンクルスと出会う。ライラックは地義を結んだホムンクルスと共に、失われた記憶と大切な仲間の行方を探して、広大な、国での旅でを始める。これは死の雨の最悪から数十年後の終末の世界で描かれる破壊と再生の物語。この死の雨の最悪が多分前作の話で合ってる。前作、エンダーリリーズを超える探索の遊びと深みを増したバトルシステム。美しい 2D アートとアニメーション、サウンドで描かれた幻想的な世界が売りらしい。しかし私は、エンダーリリーズを遊んだこともないのであった。わからないのだった。皆様のお力が必要なわけでございます。皆様のお力が必要なタイトルはまだまだたくさんあるのですね。エンダーマグノリア、今のこれから始まるタイトルも欲しいけれど、その先のタイトルもまだまだ解説者の方の応募をたくさんお待ちしておりますから、知ってるものがありましたらね、お気軽に応募ください。応募していただいた後に、実際にこの配信でおしゃべりしていただくためには、マイクチェックをしていただく必要がありますね。マイクチェックは、チャッと終わることもあれば、そうじゃないこともありますから、タイトルの直前に応募していただくよりは、ある程度余裕を持って応募していただいた方が、お互い嬉しいかなと思います。多分いけるんじゃねくらいのタイミングでも応募していただいて、多分いけるんじゃねなので、って言ってくれれば、こちらも対応しやすいので、ね、応募していただけると嬉しいのであります。お気軽に。 はい、
Hey
画
everyone,
面
welcome
が来
back
まし
to
た
Midwest
ね。
Speedfest 2026, charity speedrun marathon live from VGMCon, stitched together near Minneapolis, Minnesota. We're live all 3 days of this convention, starting at 9:30 a.m. Central Time each day, showcasing amazing speedruns and raising funds for P-Fund Foundation. To donate, just head on over to donate.midwestspeedfest.com or type !donate in chat to follow the link. And speaking of amazing speedruns, we have got Enter Magnolia Bloom in the Mist by Ouro. I do just want to let everybody know that we did, in fact, hit that incentive to upgrade to Ending B, so I'm excited to see whatever the heck that means.
Heck yeah, thank you all for donating for that, by the way. I'm Ouro. Hi, everybody. This is Ender Magnolia Bloom in the Mist. This is the sequel to Ender Lilies from 4 years prior. The runner's going to go ahead and we're just going to go ahead and get started on, time is going to start when I hit new game here, so let's just go ahead and get started in 3, 2, 1, go.
はい、
So
グ
we're
ッド
gonna
ラ
see a
ッ
couple
ク
of
で
cutscenes
す。
here. We're gonna wake up. We are a homunculus, and we, as we're about to find out, are a homunculus with the power of an attuner, which is a special thing in this world that allows us to attune to other homunculi and get their powers a la Mega Man. So we're going through this tutorial area here. This is the slowest our movement is ever going to be for about the first 3 minutes of the run. We basically just have a dive roll, which is a slight upgrade over how you start in Ender Lilies, which is you basically just dolphin dive everywhere. There's a lot of animation canceling shenanigans in Ender Lilies. This game has a lot less of that, but there is still going to be some of that, as we'll see as we go throughout the run. So we're kind of just teaching us about basic movement stuff here. We're going to get our first weapon here, which is a homunculus by the name of Nola, which is short for Magnolia, as the game is so titled. Nola is basically our key plot driving force as the game goes on. This world is the same world as Ender Lilies, just a different part of it. This is the land of fumes. And basically in this world there is a place called Origin that is kind of like beneath the Earth's crust, basically. And it emits this really strong magical force that kind of has a lot of polluting properties to it. It's a very chaotic entity. So this area basically has fumes that are emitted from down below in Origin, and they also
なん
end
か
up
こういうゲームって
causing
大体
a polluting rain
一生
over the
スライディングかローディングしてるイメージがあるんですけど、そうじゃないね。お、ちょっと待ってね。
entire area. And basically this world is
あ、大丈
owned
夫でしたか
by
ね。
some rich nobles, and they naturally only care
案
about
外普通
themselves.
に歩いてるのが
And they have
Tanto
built something called the
high-end
Empyrean Parasol to stop
ゲーム
the
なの
rain.
か。
But they basically don't care about anyone else but themselves. So that Parasol basically only protects themselves. Nola is the next in line, essentially, to take over manning the Parasol. And we'll get into a little bit more plot stuff as we go throughout the game. But I stopped at that bench there really quick. Lowered all the difficulty sliders. Don't be deceived by that. This is not an easy run. This is not an easy game. We're getting a quick kill here on Lido, which is really nice. Basically need him to do an uppercut there in order to get a faster kill here. So this is our first boss. We're going to get his homunculus attuned. We'll talk about his abilities in a little bit here. Most enemies that we defeat, most major enemies that we defeat in this game are going to give us some kind of set of homunculus abilities to take advantage of throughout the game. So we have our action bar in the bottom left there. You can see on square I have Nola mapped as my basic ability. We're able to equip 3 more homunculi to the other 3 slots as we go forward. So leaving the tutorial area here, and in most Metroidvanias, it takes you a little while to get your standard dash, wall jump, double jump, that kind of thing. This game is really, really nice and gives you those things basically right off the bat. So we're going to get those in just a second here after these next couple enemies that we pass through.
Do you have time for a quick donation?
Yeah, this would be a great time. Go for it.
Okay, and I actually forgot to mention our next incentive now that we've hit that Ender Magnolia 1. We are looking at an incentive for Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver that will be for the Soul Reaver 2 Remastered Any % bonus run. We're currently sitting at 25 out of the $150. So everybody get your wallets out and get ready to donate for that. Like this $25 donation I have here from Cassie, who says, "Hi Ouro. Surprise, it's me. Good luck on your run. I'm so proud of all the work you've put in to make it a success. Love you."
Love you too, thank you. All right, so we're going to tag this bench here really quick. We're going to equip the ability that we got from Lito, which is Blazing Fist. Abilities in this game are categorized into 4 different categories. There's Primary, which is what Nola is, just kind of a basic attack with no cooldown. There are active abilities that have a cooldown, which is Blazing Fist. We can use it while we're moving. There's no wind-up animation or anything for it, so we can use it to break crates and gather currency as we kind of do our normal movement. So you're going to see me doing that a lot, especially in the early game. There's 2 other kinds of abilities. There's pressure abilities, which are abilities where you just hold the button and it does something constantly. There's also autonomous abilities where you toggle them on and off and they kind of just do their thing passively. And we'll be making heavy use of those as we go throughout the game as well. But we'll cover those as we get there. Try to go for a quick little skip here that saves a little bit of time if this guy will cooperate. Need him to do a specific attack, which he's not doing naturally.
なんだ良くないことが良くないことな気が
is going to be using aerial attacks and dashing and jumping in order to get a little bit more height than we're ever intended to get. So you're going to see me doing that. We're going to combine it with an ability we'll get in about 6 minutes here that'll let us get even more height. But getting that trick fairly quickly is pretty nice. Doesn't save a ton of time. It basically just skips walking around that entire room. But it is a really nice thing to get. So this is our second boss, Yolvin. He has a first phase where he flies around, is annoying, just kind of acts really sporadically. And then he'll go into second phase where he'll turn into a big monster and will be a lot easier to deal with and a lot more consistent. So I mentioned it briefly earlier. I did turn down all of the difficulty sliders that this game has just to save time. Basically what those sliders do is lower boss HP, leave them stunned for longer when we break their break meter. It also makes them deal less damage. Right now, I'm taking like a normal amount of damage. As the game goes on, as we get to like the last like half/third of the run, I'm going to be getting one-shot by basically everything. So even with everything lowered, I need to be extremely careful and be at the top of my game at basically all times. So we're using the Return to Respite feature there to quickly return back to the bench that I last rested at, because we didn't at that point have fast travel. But now that we do, or now we do after we beat Yolvin and reported back to the main area, now the early game is significantly opened up to us. There's basically 3 main areas we can go to at this current juncture. We're going east first to tag a bench for fast travel later, and then we're going to go handle the west side boss first. This game, much like Ender Lilies, operates on a sort of chapter system where the game will scale in difficulty based on how many major story flags you've completed. So we're basically routing around minimizing which bosses will get increased in power from that chapter increase. Once you clear an area's major story flag, it will lock that area into that chapter and then increase the rest of the world that hasn't yet been locked, essentially. So we're basically dealing with the boss in the west first because he's the tankiest one out of all of the rest of them we're going to deal with. So he has the most to gain from the chapter scaling increase. It also, basically along the route to him, gives us the most DPS increases. So we're doing the most damage functionally by going here first. You're probably also noticing that I'm dashing and jumping a lot. It's about 5% faster, realistically, to spam dashing and jumping. The dash in this game has a little bit of an end lag to it, so we're basically canceling that by jumping. That's why I'm not doing like dash, jump, dash, like ending on a dash. I'm ending on a jump instead. We're eventually going to get a little bit of a faster movement option about like a third of the way through the run, so I won't have to do this quite the entire time.
I've got a few more donations if you've got some time.
It's a great time.
Great. I've got a $10 donation from Tony, who says, "Hey friends, good luck on the runs."
Thanks, Tony.
I also have a $25 donation with no comment from Owly. We sure appreciate it. And then another $25 donation from Gedrith, who says, "Hey, Ouro, wish I could be there in person to cheer you on. Good luck with the run. You got this, bud."
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate that a lot. So this room, they intend you to go to the bottom of this room and ride in a really, really slow elevator all the way to the top of this room. We're not going to do that. We're just going to use some of these air stalling techniques to gain a little bit more height than they intend, and we just climb up naturally. So we just got a homunculus there by the name of Moonin. It's a cute little owl friend that's going to follow us through basically the entire game. And that's going to be one of those autonomous abilities that I talked about earlier, where we're going to activate the ability. It's just going to kind of sit there and do passive damage. We don't have to worry about it too much. Moonin's also really nice because it applies at various points in the run 2 different status conditions. There are 3 main status conditions in this game. There's burn, there's shock, and I believe it's called chill is the ice one. Moonin will start by shooting fireballs that will add to our burn application that we're already doing with Blazing Fist. So that'll just give us a nice little extra bit of chip damage on bosses. We'll later get a upgrade for him that allows us to apply shock, which is an even better debuff that we'll get into as we get there. So now we have our next boss, Garm, who's a little bit more complicated, so I'm just going to shut up a little bit here and focus. Back of him, that's fine. Okay, there's an extra shockwave you can get when he does that attack on phase 3 that actually I didn't get twice, which is really, really nice. There it is. That's Garm. As you can see, that fight still took quite a while. If we did this at any later point, if we did other stuff first, that would take significantly longer, because we basically just don't have any other way to increase our damage super early. So we kind of just have to fight him at the earliest opportunity we have. So we're going to go a little bit out of our way here for an item called an unidentified amplifier, and that's going to give us access to a new ability for Nola that we'll get in a little bit. We're not going to get it right away. So every homunculus we get has 3 abilities, or 3 versions of their ability that you have access to. So Nola's primary that we have access to now is just like a normal sword attack. The unidentified amplifier will unlock a big, huge scythe attack that will replace the sword swing. And that's going to be our main damage output for a good chunk of the run. A lot of the homunculi that we get, we are going to use just the default ability that they come with. But some of them do have some extra unlockable ones that are pretty significant upgrades over their default moveset. So yeah, now we have Moonin following us around. He's a friend. We love Moonin. There's another owl you can get named Hugin that does a little bit of different things where it will react to things that you do. So like if you dodge an attack, he'll like counterattack for you, things like that. But a little more out of the way than Moonin is. So some of these enemies here, I'm going out of my way to slam them from higher heights than normal. This is giving me kind of the secondary currency of the game called Scrap. Scrap is used to upgrade our relics that we can equip for passive benefits, and we need to make sure we get 1,000 by about the mid-game. And it's pretty tightly routed to get just about 1,000 by the time you need it. There is some variance there, so there are some backups that I can get if things don't cooperate. But this game basically has a couple ways of, like, it registers as like breaking enemies. When you deplete their like stamina bar, it breaks them, which is one form. Hitting them with like a large impact, which is like slamming on them from a super high height, or them getting knocked into water, things like that, that will be a different kind. So we're going to use a lot of those to our advantage to collect scrap as we go. So that right there, marking another bench. We're going to fast travel there later, stopping by the main hub area of the first part of the game. We're going to buy our first piece of equipment. So the equipment that we grab in this game, we're largely just looking for things that increase our attack. Attack increases in this game are just flat increases to every hit we can do, which is really, really nice. These enemies, I like to call this the vibe check sewer, because it's just full of these like little ball enemies that sometimes they just ignore you and sometimes they will just try to kill you. That's kind of a general theme for enemies in this game. They have basically two modes. They have pay attention to you and do everything they can to destroy you, or just like look at you and just chill. So that's like one of the biggest fears of running this game, is just kind of having to behave as if every enemy will not pay attention to you, and sometimes they just do and you die. Especially later in the game when there are a lot more aggressive enemies that do a lot more damage.
あんまり
The difference between them paying attention to
変
you
な
and
こと
not
しないで
is night and day.
こうしているのか
And it's always terrifying to
わ
be
から
on
な
the
い
run and just have to
こうスクロール系はなん
hope
か
that they
変なこと
don't
をしている
look
の
at
が
me.
当たり前かのように感じていて
So there's a couple ways we can
ど
go
こま
through
で
this
が
area. We're
ゲ
choosing
ー
to
ム
go
の
through the left way. There's basically a left
想
way
定
and
し
a
てい
right
る
way.
仕様
They
で
both
ど
time
こ
out
から
about
が
the same, but this left path has a bit more scrap for us to pick up. So we're going this way for the scrap
怪しい
running
動きなの
purposes.
かがわからない
So we're about done with this area. This is basically the like going south option of the three initial pathing options. So we're gonna get dive, which is gonna let us swim underwater as it sounds. We're going to move our camera a little bit there in order to tag the bench that's below us. As long as a bench is ever like on your screen, or like the game deems it to have been on your screen, that will mark the bench for later travel. So there's a lot of times where we're going to mark a bench to fast travel away right away, and I'll just use the camera in order to mark it just that last little bit earlier, save a little bit of time. So now that we can dive, we're going to head down into the final disposal site, which is about the farthest down we can go right now. This is going to be basically another big long trip for a damage increase and marking a fast travel point for another boss. We're basically just setting up all these fast travel points for once we hit our damage spikes and we can actually go through and take out all these bosses in quick succession. So this actually be a great time if we have a little, another minute or two for some messages if you have any.
You know, I am fresh out of donations at the moment. Sorry, I actually have some encouragement from the Twitch chat, though. I have got a message from Critical Sid that says, "Good luck, Ouro."
Thank you, Sid.
Dekide says, "Good luck entering those magnolias."
Thank you, Kide.
And Togni, I'm just going to shorten your name to Togni, my friend, says, "Ouro's movement is..."
いやいやちょいちょい読み込みが怪しくなるまあ日本語再配信ジャパニーズリストイン
Tony.
そういうことをどうしてもたまに起こってやります
A reminder to get those donations in so that we can hit the $150 required
ジャン
for
プから攻
Soul
撃
Reaver
して
2 Remastered
移動距離を伸ばすのは
run. That is a
想定され
mouthful,
ている
and
短
we
縮
are
方法
$100 short of that goal right now. So let's get donating for P Fund, everybody.
So this boss has been really mean to me in practice and has basically given me the really slow attack that you just kind of have to stall and wait for him to finish like every single fight, but he was actually nice here and just rolled forward like a good boy. This boss is really annoying. If you try to like pressure him too hard at the start and get behind him, he kind of just says nope and rolls backwards and just crushes you against the edge of the screen and kills you. So you kind of just have to be patient. But that was a pretty clean roller fight. That's not a super complicated boss. It's basically just a glorified big enemy. But it can be scary. This is when fights will start to just kind of clip you for half your health and are pretty scary. So this next area is kind of interesting. We're going to be swimming through a bunch of blight-filled water. And the damage that this water does, every single tick that it's doing, you can see it's doing 5. It does 5% of your max HP. So this area is actually a lot scarier in the 100% category because we have like 120 HP here. So it's doing like 6 damage per tick instead of 5. And when it ticks that fast, that adds up a lot. This area is filled with these kind of flowers that are on the ground that will refill one of our healing flasks every time we break one. However, if we're at full healing flasks, it will just automatically heal us as if we used one. So optimally through this area, we are just never going to manually heal, and we're going to let those flowers do their job for us. So like right there, just automatically heals me back up to basically full, and that should carry us until the next one. Basically anything hitting you here means an extra manual heal, and it kind of scales pretty quickly. So like getting hit once usually means like 2 extra manual heals. Getting hit twice means like 4, just because of how things kind of pace out. One little extra bit of movement here we're going to do because of you all so generously donated for the Ending B incentive. We are going to tag an extra bench up here for some Ending B stuff that we need to do a little bit later. But it's just prep for now. Otherwise, we would just go straight down here in Ending A. So we're going to let our HP get pretty low here as we get on the way to the next flower. I'm going to grab this one, and then we're going to immediately get another one. So all of these kind of waterfalls will continually push us down if we just sit there and not move. So by dashing and then using a sword swing to cancel the animation, we can kind of ascend through them faster than we otherwise would be able to, which is kind of a nice little time save. So we're going to grab one more item here before we teleport out of here. This is, I've grabbed a couple of them so far, but this is a grimoire. Basically what these do is expand the shop back at our hub. We're going to be getting 4 of these throughout the run for some very important items that we'll cover in just a second here. So yeah, using those sword cancels to get up there quickly. And then after we tag this bench, we're going to do a little bit of a shopping trip and then handle our next boss. So we're going to go back to private quarters here. Then we're going to buy 3 magic vials, which allow us to expand our relic equipping capacity. And then since we have enough grimoires, we will get the protective shell. That is one of a class of equipment in this game called carapaces, and those will basically put a kind of parry maneuver on our dash button. So if we just press it without pressing a direction, we will parry instead of dashing, and that's going to be a huge way that we avoid damage throughout the game. I just realized I forgot to equip the Vivid Claws there, so I'll have to do that at the next bench. So the first relic that I equipped before Garm was called Sanguinary Raven, which increases our aerial damage by 10%. The next one that I picked up on the way to Roller is called Vivid Claws, which increases our damage by 15% against enemies that are statused. So like you can see right now he's on fire, that means he has burn. We'll get shock later, which will be a beneficial damage increase. So yeah, Vivid Claws basically has like absurd uptime on its damage bonus. So yeah, just kind of parrying through all these attacks that he's doing, making sure that we get as much damage as possible. And the parry actually does a lot of damage too. So yeah, that's Shackled Beast. Something interesting that can come up on this fight too, it didn't hear. So it was a big thing in Ender Lilies in the speedrun, but enemies in this game take fall damage. So if you break them while they're in midair, they will just fall and take damage proportional to how high they were before they fell. That really comes in a lot in Ender Lilies just because bosses in that game jump a lot and you have a lot of agency over breaking them. This game, that isn't necessarily as true. Bosses generally stay grounded a lot more. So that's just not quite as reliable of a strategy, but you definitely go for it if you're given the opportunity to do so, because it definitely does save you, you know, you'll just have a random like 5-second time save from the amount of damage that you get from it sometimes. So this area is kind of a bit of a Lost Woods type maze. There's a lot of teleporters, a lot of like weird paths that you kind of can't tell where you're going. Thankfully, we've played this game a lot. We know exactly where we're going. This area was probably one of the harder areas to route for the 100% category. It was kind of a cool puzzle to solve because you end up coming back here later in the game too. So kind of working that into what you're doing on the first trip versus the second trip was kind of cool. So basically the whole thing of this area is we need to go and hit one switch that opens up the area to the boss. So we're just going straight to that lever, which is right here. and then we're going to teleport back to the central room and proceed forward to where the boss is. Every single one of these fast travel menus, the game kind of operates weirdly. So if you don't open the list of locations in the map, and you try to use L2 and R2 to quickly swap between areas, you have to wait for the game to kind of scroll the map to whatever area it is, and it takes a long time. But if you open up that list by pressing square, you can do whatever inputs you would do to quickly switch around the map without waiting for the game to do that. So if you notice me opening up the list every single time I go in the menu, that's why. So we have one last little area here. We're going to grab a little bit more currency as we're going through here, and then we're going to have our next boss, which is Veil. Veil is probably one of the most RNG heavy bosses in the entire game. There's one other one later that is definitely worse. But Veil is basically a big wolf that just kind of jumps around the arena, does a bunch of stuff. He's our first real introduction to the shock status condition, which we will not be able to apply to him, unfortunately, because he's immune to it. But the shock status condition basically makes it so that anything afflicted by it will take and deal 10% less damage.
人とか
And
人とかがあ
as
っ
a
たんだ。
player, basically
やばいな。
anytime that we get hit by a
全然
status,
つまらないから、
status
操
building
作が。
attack, we have to get hit twice by it in order to actually get
う
the
まくて
status. So
何
we
が何だか
ideally
で
want
す
to get
ね。
hit no more than once during this fight by any attack that will apply that status to us. Otherwise, we are
大
just
体
doing 10%
メ
less
トロイド
damage
マ
and
ニ
we
ア
just
的
have
な
to
や
wait
つ
it
っ
out.
て、うまく
So
人
we
が
got
や
a
る
couple
や
of
つを見
abilities
ると
here. I need to remember
何が
to
何だか
equip the Vivid Claws that I didn't know
う
before.
まい
So now we're using our Scythe on Nola. We have switched Moonin to his shock applying attack, even though we will not be able to use it yet. And then we also got Shackle Beast's ability, which is Chain Whip, which is going to kind of serve as a counter. It's like a secondary version of our parry that does a little bit more damage and gives us a little bit more iframes. So we're going to kind of weave that in with our normal counters and stuff. So yeah, you can just see he just jumps around all the time, and like you just kind of have to stay on top of him. Okay, that's fine. What are you doing, bud? Easily the most annoying thing he does is put up those electric pillars, because sometimes he'll just put them off screen and you have to like chase him or dash away from something he's doing, and you just have to like hope that you don't run face first into one. That actually didn't go as far as I thought. He's usually not on that far on the left side of the screen when he goes into that phase. But he does just always do that charge when he comes out of that phase transition. Okay, we're gonna heal just to be safe here. Okay. Ideally, he dies on the right side of the screen. You will get the cutscene for defeating bosses no matter where you're standing, but they will stay dead wherever they died. And we are going right here, so ideally that boss dies on the right side of the screen, but that's totally okay. So now we get our next ability, which is Hati's Charge. The wolf, whose name is Hati, by the way, that we've been using to fast travel around, we can now ride on top of him. Basically, once you're holding a sprint for long enough, you'll just automatically charge and get on Hati. That's going to be our fastest form of movement now. So now I get to spare my hands a little bit. I don't have to spam dashing quite as much. Hati also has a nice side effect of getting light breaks on enemies that we run through. So we are just going to incidentally collect scrap from enemies that we run through with him, which is going to be really nice for our scrap routing. This area is filled with frost geysers, as you can see there. We got hit twice by them, so we got slowed down from that briefly. So we're kind of routing in the number of times that we get hit there. Ideally, we get only hit once there. They can double hit you, which is kind of annoying, but we didn't get slowed down there, so that's fine. We're doing good on money. We need 900 here, so that's totally fine.
A couple of donations that just came in. If there's time for that.
Yes, go for it.
Great. So I have a donation from Tony, $10. Tony says, fine, host is farming us for more donos. Long-time watcher, first-time donor. Put this towards killing the animals. Greetings from Germany. And yes, I am in the Twitch chat shamelessly asking for donations.
Nothing wrong with that.
We also have a $10 donation from Anonymous that says, best of luck to Ouro. Everyone have an amazing time this weekend. And
Thank you.
that $10 did go to the, let me switch tabs, this is a mouthful, the Soul Reaver 2 Remastered any percent bonus run.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, let's get this stuff met, guys. Alright, so we're going to tag this bench really quick. We're going to warp back to private quarters one more time. Do one last little shopping trip for one more piece of equipment that's going to increase our damage yet again. And then we're going to warp right back. Thankfully, we can do that right. We can access our full menu right from the shop menu, which is really, really nice. So we can just fast travel out right from there. So this is Lars. You're intended to fight him 3 times. Spoilers, we're only fight him twice. We're going to skip the second time you fight him. Basically, the game doesn't check for you actually killing him all 3 times. It just cares for you getting to, like, his 3rd boss arena. So as long as we get there, the game's going to act as if nothing funky happened. So there's the first Lars fight. He's going to get progressively harder each time. And then we're going to eventually get his ability at the very end. So run through here, get a little bit more scrap.
You know, we are only $7 away from having $670 in donations, and being in my 30s, I've been told that 6-7 is a funny number, although I have no idea of the meaning.
I'm 33 and I think it's hilarious, so... Alright, so we're going to get right in front of Lars 3 here, but we're not going to fight him just yet, so we're kind of manipulating the chapter count, as I alluded to slightly earlier. We're going to fight a different boss in the final disposal site that we tagged the bench for a little bit earlier. This is the king of the garbage heap, otherwise known as Motley. He may or may not have been a real boy that was imprisoned in the body of a spider. It's really tragic. I won't go into the whole plot implications of his backstory, but it's really, really tragic, and we feel bad for Motley. But we do need to take him out right now. So he has 2 phases. The first phase is this big ball, like, trash form. So we need to dodge his fire attacks. We can actually just sit here and parry the lasers if we get lined up just right. Now we broke away his big trash shell. We gotta fight the little version inside. He's gonna roll around. Kind of just have to be at the mercy of what he's gonna do. We're gonna parry these. This fight's weird, so he can sometimes just decide to explode prematurely, and you just kind of have to sit there and wait for it. Can lose you a little bit of time here and there, depending on when he decides to do it, but still died on the right side of the screen, which is what we're looking for, so we definitely will not complain about that. So one of the main big plot things we're trying to do in this lower stratum of the game is rescuing these set of NPCs that are going to give us access to the elevator for getting to basically the rest of the game. I'm going to sit here and parry this ice bomb, and Lars is just going to stay there and not care about what I have to say. Okay, that's lovely. We can get a bit of a quick kill on him there if he decides to actually come down, but he's a bully. So a nice little piece of tech we can use there is the parry will basically count as like another way to stall our air momentum. So since we're kind of just wanting to stay in the air next to him, we can use it to just stay there that much longer. So we got a little bit extra of a hallway here we got to run through before we get Lars's ability, which is going to be the wall cling, and basically this version's game of the wall jump. And then we get to proceed to basically the big halfway point of the main part of the game. And we're doing good on scrap, which is great. Make sure we don't die to these guys. These guys are really annoying. Like, they have big projectiles that just come out, and they, like, the animation of them shooting the projectiles can also hit you and knock you away. So you kind of have to play that a little slow and make sure that you don't get knocked away. or just die. So yeah, we're above 1,000 scrap, we're good. Heading back to the big elevator at the start of the game. And here we're going to be introduced to, I guess, the main antagonist. This game doesn't really have a proper main antagonist, but functionally for the purposes of the game, the run, this is our main antagonist. This is Gilroy. We're going to fight him 3 times throughout the game. He's the current operator of the Empyrean Parasol, the one who Nola is basically meant to replace. And Nola wound up where we were basically because he didn't want us to have to suffer, because this is kind of a Hollow Knight-esque story of somebody's holding back this blight and it's very rough on them and you don't want to be the person having to do it. So Gilroy's basically trying to keep Nola from ruining her life essentially and having to maintain this parasol. This fight with Gilroy annoyingly has a shield for a good chunk of the fight, so we kind of just have to sit here and play at his pace, parry his moves as he sends them out. Okay, and that was not too bad. There are some attacks in this game that will pierce through shields. They're not a huge mechanic in the game. There's not a ton of enemies that have shields that operate like that. But yeah, a lot of the enemies, the way we have to deal with them is just by playing at their pace, parrying as they hit us, and just hitting them while their shields are down. So now we are at the central stratum. There's basically 3 main chunks of the map. There's lower stratum, central stratum, and upper stratum. Now we have basically 2 main directions we can go. We can go east or we can go west. We're going to go up to go east first. This is a little bit more linear of a section of the game. You still have a lot of freedom of where you go when, but you basically can't finish areas outside of the kind of intended order. So we're basically just going to be following the game's lead on that. Doing a little bit of something here I haven't touched on yet. So by starting a downward slam with Garm's ability, and then jumping out of it or dashing out of it, we can get a little bit more height than we otherwise would be able to get. So we can kind of use that to kind of get a secondary jump, on, or a little bit of extra height on our second jump.
Good time for a few donations?
Yes, this is actually a great time.
All right. Alta Biscuit donated $7 and said, haha, funny number. And Tony was just a little too slow with the $6 donation that said, this one is for the millennials. Nice try, Tony. You'll get them next year. And then one $11 donation from Anonymous that says, great game and clean run, Ouro. Sunglasses emoji. And then I think this next comment is directed toward me. Good luck saying that this is going toward the Soul Reaver 2 Remastered any % bonus run incentive.
Thank you for all those donos, guys. It's great. Keep them coming in. So this next part of this area, we're going to take some intentional damage and then go into the next boss at pretty low HP. So the next boss is actually a series of 4 bosses that you have to defeat in sequence without dying. The game does give you one of your heals back in between each of those fights, and they operate kind of like the free heals in Final Disposal Site, where if you are at full healing item capacity, the game will just automatically heal you. So we're going to use that to our advantage, so long as we don't get hit any extra time before that. Hopefully I don't jinx that by saying that, but we're going to go for a little bit of a skip here. We're going to grapple onto this, and we're going to launch ourselves off, do a little bit of air stalling for height, and then grab this grapple point from below. That basically skips just a tiny little bit of walking to the right side or the left side of that room, and then going around.
今のはでもさすがに想定され
It's definitely the air stalls.
てたら怖いな。
So we did have to ride that elevator up just now. We didn't have to ride it up. We climbed up the wall and damage boosted through some flame pillars. We're going to do that the other direction. We're just going to slam through these fire pillars that just don't have collision. They will still hurt us. Ouch. But we're fine. Exactly at 10 HP. We'll tag this bench here. We don't have to sit on it because we're ideally going to get free healed and not die on this boss, knock on wood. But yeah, now we have 4 bosses in a row, and I'm probably just going to focus on these. And we already messed up. Okay, that's fine. Always good to take a quick death and not die halfway through the fights. And we can just fast travel right back to this bench that we were just at, so no big deal. But yeah, you can see now the boss is doing what? He did 86 damage to me. That's almost my entire health bar. We do get a little bit of a grace period just from, like, when enemies are dealt that shock condition, they do deal 10% less damage, which does create some thresholds where we can take maybe an extra hit than we otherwise usually would be able to. What are you doing, 14? That's fine. Just parry your grenades. Not too bad.
Just a reminder, we are over halfway to our next incentive, which is, of course, the Soul Reaver 2 Remastered Any % bonus run in Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. 84 out of $150. Let's keep those donations coming.
We have one more fight here. One thing you saw me do on that fight is we got an ability from Gilroy called Last Rites, which is basically an ultimate ability that's charged by that bottom left meter on the screen. And every homunculus has their own. We'll see a couple of them. Okay, missed the parry there. That is an attack that will just kill you. So unfortunately, I gotta do these fights again. If you have any more messages, go ahead and read through them for these as we read through these bosses here.
Sorry, I had a mouthful of chips. I am fresh out of donations at the moment. If somebody in the Twitch chat maybe wants to change that, give Tony a break. I know they've been doing quite a few donations. Ouro, I was actually wondering, when you have a little bit of downtime, I was wondering if you just run this game or if you run the prequel as well, and what drew you to this one?
I'm definitely planning on eventually running Ender Lilies. My buddy Keyzeron has been bugging me to do that quite a lot. He's a huge runner for the first game, so that's probably on the agenda for at some point this year.
Are you fighting all 20 of these combat puppets?
Okay, there we go. Yeah, that sheath draw attack he has is nasty because it really doesn't have like a huge tell to it. You just have to like get the timing down. And it is really easy to just mess it up and get double hit and die. All right, so now we're heading into the next major dungeon. This is Declan's estate. Declan is not a nice guy, basically. He basically tried to usurp one of the noble houses, and he's the one that ended up turning Motley into a homunculus and trapping him down in the garbage, basically. The nobles found out he did that, and they weren't too happy about it. But yeah, now we have to go in here, bully Declan. He's basically just retreated into his manor and basically using all the homunculi here as his kind of playthings and entertainment. The tower that we just fought through is basically his just gladiatorial arena of his own amusement. So this area is a little weird from a routing perspective. They kind of intend you to come in, like, it's basically one big circle, and they kind of intend you to go down first. No matter what we do need to talk to that NPC we just talked to in order to be told that there's a key to the next area. We can't just get the key, unfortunately. So we kind of have to go top first, be told that there's a key, then come back around through the bottom, get the key, and then fast travel back to the top and use the key. It would be a lot more intuitive for basically every category of this game to like route it otherwise, but unfortunately we are at the game's mercy.
Would a couple of donations ease the sting of that backtracking?
Yes, definitely.
Excellent. And you know who it is coming in with another $4. It's Tony. Tony says, give who a break? Just evening out my contributions. NBD. Ouro Gaming.
Thank you, Tony.
And Shovda with $5 who says, hi from the audience. Hi, Shovda.
So another quick little mini boss here. This is basically just a glorified enemy, so not a ton going on here. Just a couple parries and yeah, make quick work of that. So now we get to go right along and fight Declan. Declan is the only boss that we have to fight entirely underwater, which is why I switched up my moveset a little bit for this next fight. This is definitely the biggest RNG fight of the run. He can kind of just run around and do whatever he wants, especially in the third phase. So we want to kind of try to time out our damage so that we do as much damage in the first two phases as possible. So this gun that I'm using is the ability that we got from Yulvin, and it's a lot easier to do underwater, but we can kind of cancel the ending animation of Nola's sight swings with mixing in some barrage shots. We'll be doing that to maximize our damage and just build more of that Last Right's ultimate meter. Sneak another ultimate in here. So this is going to be the main ultimate that we use for most of the run, the one for Barrage. Barrage is just a huge sweeping AoE in kind of that cone that you see. That's a really weird, okay. Alright, that was a pretty clean Declan, I will take that. Basically didn't see anything of the worst of what Phase 3 can do.
Ouro, I am receiving reports from the Twitch chat that you are a boyish heartthrob.
I'm a what?
Tony is saying that you are a boyish heartthrob.
Oh, yes. So,
okay.
To give extra context, I actually need to do something else really quick.
No context needed, I can see it.
So I ran Hollow Knight when it originally came out at SGDQ 2017, and the devs for that game, Team Cherry, put out an article on their blog site just calling me a boyish heartthrob out of nowhere. And I was like, okay. And it's just kind of a nickname that stuck. So thanks, Team Cherry, for giving me that. It's definitely been a legacy, what, 9 years in the making now? The fact that Hollow Knight is almost 10 years old is wild.
I saw a post the other day that said Game of Thrones premiered 15 years ago.
Oh my gosh. I can feel my bones creaking.
Shaking your hand as a fellow 30-something.
So the ability we got from Declan is Motley's Torrent, which is basically an underwater version of Hati's Charge. And now that we can break these underwater barriers, we're going to backtrack to the Crimson Forest and head into one of the noble houses, House Frost, and get one of two major keys that we need to beat the game. So this is the Frost Lord's Mark. We're going to also need the Milius Lord's Mark later on. And those will basically be our two keys that open up the final area of the game. We're going to grab a couple other extra optional things here. And then we're gonna fast travel back to our Central Stratum hub area. Then we're gonna do a little bit of a menu. We're gonna upgrade some stuff. And then we're gonna unlock one of number 7's abilities called Hail Dance, which it'll just kind of speak for itself. It's really, really broken for movement, basically.
Speaking of 7,
Yes.
can I just say, you guys, we have hit $700. Can I get some hype, please?
That's awesome.
And that is in part thanks to a $4 donation from Alta Biscuit, who said, "We have braved the valley of funny numbers and made it to 700. Good job, team. Keep it up, Ouro."
Going from 600 to 700 is pretty funny.
Two of the funniest numbers I've been told.
So yeah, now that we completed the east side of Upper Stratum, or Central Stratum, we're going through the west path now. And now that we have Hail Dance, we can skip basically this entire teleporter puzzle. He really wanted to hit me. That's fine. I respect it. I respect the hustle. So here we're going to do something I did a little bit earlier a couple times, didn't mention it, but every single time there's an elevator that you need to wait for, you can make sure the elevator is off screen, and it will, I don't remember exactly how much faster it moves, but it moves much, much faster. So by starting the elevator and then moving it off screen and then moving back on screen, we can just kind of skip a lot of these really slow elevator rides. That one's really long, so we want to wait there for just a second. That's a good pattern. So these laser enemies will shoot out 4 lasers. That pattern is entirely random. So a lot of times they can just like snipe you. That's also pretty fortunate. Will the last one cooperate? No, it will not. Okay, we just have to wait this one out. That's fine. I wait too early. That's fine. There's also a really fun glitch that is really awful when it happens here. I like to just call it laser glitch. We don't really have a good name for it. So the animation for projectiles and like laser beams in this game are kind of twofold. There's like the particle effect around it, and then like the actual laser itself. A lot of times the game just will randomly not render the laser itself. And when that happens on lasers, you just can't see them. So you kind of just have to like not get got by that. It doesn't happen a ton, but when it does, it can just kill your run, and it's really unfortunate. So this is another area. The next area we go through is, we're going to go through it a little bit unintended. This is another area that's kind of a big circle, with like a little bit on top where the boss is. You're intended to go down and then go around. We're just going to cut straight through the middle by using number 7's Hail Dance ability to just get up here, get a lot more height. We get to just use Hachi's charge to run through this horizontal screen. That's fun. We're gonna have to take this really slow since that got broken. The unfortunate thing about having to stop when you're already riding Hachi is you have to sit there and wait for him to charge back up, so it can be kind of hard to recover if you need to heal in situations like that.
Important question.
Yes.
Can you pet the dog in Ender Magnolia?
You can. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I believe the cutscene when you fast travel, if you don't skip it, you kind of give him a little head pat after every single fast travel.
Thank goodness.
I have been skipping that animation this entire time, so I apologize, but...
I think you're forgiven.
All right, so this next little part, we're gonna do a big air stall. This saves about 25 seconds if we do it correctly the first time. We basically refer to this as factory skip. Basically just skipping, running around the right side of this area, and we'll see if I end up getting it. But we'll definitely sit here and concentrate for a second. first part, and now the much harder part. Alright, we got it. Alright, good. That's definitely like the hardest like actual like trick in the run for
いや
sure.
ー、明確な悪い
That's
ことだ。
definitely walled a lot of newer runners. It's just a rhythm you kind of have to get down. Once you get it down, thankfully it's largely like riding a bicycle, but I do still mess it up time here and there.
So, what's this guy got going on?
He's a jerk. He likes to just run around. Thankfully he's sitting still right now. Doing this attack again. We have phase transition. Gonna hit him with one more barrage. And that'll do it. Okay, cool. This is the start of when basically everything can one-shot me. This guy one-shots you before shock is applied. Thankfully, he hit me there after I applied shock already, so the 10% less damage actually made the threshold survivable. But yeah, definitely stuff from this point on is extremely scary. Another hopefully quick small little fight here.
I would love it if we hit 750 by the end of this round. What do you think, guys? Can we make it happen?
Was not ready for the big fireball. I was expecting the other attack. It's fine, we'll just hit her here. Okay, not bad. Yeah, she basically has two attacks that she can do there that have basically the same tell. One of them, it's really nice to dash through it to get closer to her, and then the other one, the timing is a lot different, which is the one that I got, unfortunately, but that's okay. Gonna break that guy so he doesn't laser us. Need to build up a hockey charge using this teleporter here. And then we're going to make a quick pit stop down here to grab another unidentified amplifier, which is going to give us our next upgrade for Nola's Scythe, which we're going to upgrade in just a second here. The ability we got from defeating Velgrind is this kind of super jump. We have to sit there, hold up, and it charges up, and then we can just shoot for the sky, basically. Some of these ascents that I'm doing you can do with air stalls and tail dance, but we're going to be stopped by barriers that you need this ability to break, so we can only get so far without it, and unfortunately can't actually skip it. So this area, basically the whole crux of this is we need to, it's another one kind of like Crimson Forest, we need to hit a switch, which opens up the way to the door, or the boss. So we're going to mark this bench, we're going to upgrade our Scythe, we're going to go hit the switch and then fast travel back. These enemies are easily the worst ones in the game. They kind of just scoot across the floor. It's pretty erratic what they decide to do. They can just kind of scooch back and forth at will. But they also have an attack where they'll just stop and pretty unreactably start like flailing around, and that flail will do 131 damage to me. I have 120 HP. I will just die. I have had so many runs die in this area in particular just because those enemies, you just have to play as if they won't screw you over, and sometimes they just do. So we hit the switch, fast traveling back here. Now we get to wrap around the other way, make our way to the boss. So this is going to be our second fight with Gilroy. He has a much different moveset than last time, and thankfully he threw his shield away. I guess he just figured that defense was not the best offense anymore. And it works out for us. And just have to respect this enemy deciding to do that. Okay. Well, we got a little bit of a showcase why those enemies are the worst without it killing me, so I'll take it. And hopefully this guy gives me the ball attack. He did. Yeah, basically the whole point of that switch was to open up the door to let me do that slam through all of those platforms. And that lets me get to the boss. I'm gonna open a quick little shortcut here just in case I die. Thankfully we can hit it while we're already charging our ascent. That's fine. Okay, not too bad. So the main crux of the upgrade that we got for Nola's Scythe here is that it changes the 3-hit combo to make the 2-hit or the second hit of the combo kind of leave her scythe out spinning, and while that's going, we aren't locked into the animation. So what that allows us to do is keep a lot of good damage uptime while keeping ourselves safe and able to react to what the boss is doing. A lot of the skill in bosses for the rest of the game is just not overcommitting to attack strings and just making sure that we're leaving that attack up as much as possible so we can react to whatever the boss does.
Time for another donation?
Yes, this is a good time.
You know him. You love him. $50 from Tony, who says, yeah, let's hit 750, everyone. Thank you so much, Tony.
Thank you, Tony. Tony is quite the Midwest Speedfest OG. And a very, very good friend, for sure. So we're about to get into the main divergence from ending A to ending B. Apart from a couple little setup things I've done up until now, you've basically just been watching the ending A run. But basically the next like 10 minutes or so is all ending B exclusive content once we tag this next bench. The item I just picked up is an equipment slot called a totem, and basically what those do is they modify our heals and our skill points for our ultimates. So basically what that one's going to do is give us a second ultimate gauge and passively charge the ultimate gauge over time. And we're going to have to fight a lot of mini-bosses in rapid succession in the ending B content. So we're going to be making heavy use of that. We're going to go ahead and equip it right here. And this is the bench that we marked earlier when we got Dive. The ability that we got from Gilroy 2 is called Lars's Swift Flight. It's this kind of Hollow Knight Crystal Dash-alike ability. We can just kind of cling to a wall, charge it up, and then dash across, break through whatever barriers are in our way. We're going to grab another relic here called Magic Strand Charm. This increases our damage by 10% while we're at full HP. And we're basically always at full HP since we're either at full or dead. So it works out pretty nicely. We're going to put that on basically before the last couple bosses. It doesn't increase our damage by enough to really warrant going out of our way to equip it earlier, unfortunately. So we are now in the Land of Origin. This is basically the area that I was kind of talking about at the beginning of the run, sort of beneath the world of this game. That's where all the blight is coming from, where all the bad stuff's coming from. A lot of enemies here that can be rude to us. These little plant things on the walls have a counter ability that they can do, which is why I put my owl away so that the owl doesn't accidentally shoot them and trigger the parry and kill me, basically. And this area we have to kill 4 of this mini-boss. We basically have to fight 1 on the left, 1 on the right, 1 down, and 1 up. We just have to fight 4 different walls, basically. Their attacks are extremely scary, though. They basically don't have any tell. They do, but it's like very, very quick that you have to react to them, and you don't know exactly which of its attacks it's going to do when it gives you its tell. So you kind of just have to do something whenever it gives you the sign that it's doing something. That's fine. We'll just grab this extra heal refill here. That was really good damage there, actually. That's usually the hardest of the four, just because your attacks hitting it is kind of wonky, just because it's in the floor. But that was excellent. That's fine. Basically getting the enemies out of the way here, because we need to set up a Hati charge. That one cooperated, thankfully. These little sea butterfly enemies have basically two things they can do. They can either put that little ring of fire around themselves, or they can just kind of like frame one dash at you. So a lot of them you have to just, again, you have to just vibe check them and hope that they don't decide to just unreactably dash at you. Another really good fight. And then we're gonna have one more, which is gonna be the ceiling one. Okay, that almost got me. But we're good. Alright, so now we need to grab this area's plot MacGuffin. And then there's an NPC that we basically are just following around for some of these ending B triggers. So we need to go back to Crimson Forest, talk to her, then we get to head back to another one of the entry points of the Land of Origin, which is going to be here. So this is a section we're going to have to visit twice, so we're mostly just marking it for fast travel and doing the initial trigger, and then we're going to have to come back to get the final plot MacGuffin that we need for ending B. And the lovely thing about the water in the Land of Origin, as you're about to see, is that it goes from doing 5% of our health and damage to 10%. So unfortunately we get really slowed down here by having to pause and heal. So I've been talking a lot about how, even with all the difficulty sliders turned down, we're still getting one shot. So like, surely how tanky must the game actually expect me to be? Probably at this point of the game, casually, you're gonna have about 6 times the effective HP that I do currently. So like, casually speaking, it's like totally fine. But when you're skipping all the health upgrades, a lot of the better equipment, yeah, you're pretty squishy. We did that trigger. We get to go back to Unblighted Path. And where we got Lars's initial ability was a giant wall that we couldn't pass. And it's one of the big mysteries when you're like playing the game casually. It's like, you just continually do not get the thing to let you go in there. We can finally go in there. So we're gonna go in there, fight some more mini bosses, get one more plot MacGuffin. And then we're basically going to be all set to beat the game and get the better ending. Yeah, ending A basically entirely skips all of these Land of Origin trips. gonna play that safe. Okay, that's fine. So we've probably got some time for a couple more host messages if you've got any as we run through this last land of origin area.
Oh, perfect. We just got our technical difficulties sorted out over here. So let me see. I do have $5 from Shovda. Thank you for those $5. Sure appreciate it. Let's check in on the bid incentives. Oh wow, guys, we are so close. We are sitting at 138 of the $150 for the Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver 2 Remastered any percent bonus run. $12 to go. Let's make that happen during Ouro's run, okay guys? And a $10 donation just rolled in from Anonymous. Thank you so much, Anonymous. So now we are only $2 away from that incentive.
Oh my god. That's tragic. Missed the parry on the big ball splash damage as the boss died. So unfortunately we gotta kill these last two again. So keep them rolling if you've got them.
I'm fresh out right now. Does anybody want to donate the last $2 that we need for that incentive?
Surely we can get that in by the time I get through this area.
Now, from the Twitch chat, I do have a comment from Maeve Marie, who says, Ouro, always a privilege to get to watch you in these events, even when worst comes to worst, and it has to be from a smart fridge because of technical difficulties.
I appreciate that a lot, thank you. Okay. So we have one more boss in this area. I hesitate to even call it that. We're basically fighting Rybolg again. He's very weak from the time that we fought him like 30 seconds ago. He still hit us. Alright, I just wanted it to feel fair. It's fine. Alright, there we go. We do get him as a homunculus we can use. Unfortunately, he's not great for speedruns, so we don't use him, but it's a thing you can do casually if you're so inclined. Alright, so we got our last little MacGuffin. So now I gotta go back to this bench that we tagged before, do one more trigger, and then we get to head up to the upper stratum and take on the last couple bosses of the run. Basically, all of this stuff is to serve the end goal of replacing the final boss with a harder final boss. It's still Gilroy, but it's a harder version of Gilroy, where he does a lot more attacks, does a lot more damage, generally a lot scarier.
I'll just tell you guys right now, I went ahead and chipped in the $2 for that incentive, so we are at $150. That is for the, again, Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver 2 Remastered, any % bonus round. I also have a donation of $6.70 from Maeve Marie, who says, "Oofta, amazing run, Ouro." Heart emoji. So happy to experience it live with y'all, parentheses, and shout out to that pretty lady sitting in front.
Alright, so this is the final area of the game. This is the upper stratum. This is basically the evacuated area where all the rich guys lived. Once it got too dangerous. So it's all deserted now. There aren't any real benches in this area that we can tag before the next boss. So this is definitely one of the scariest sections to die. Thankfully, we're a little bit stronger in ending B than we would be in ending A. And this next boss got a lot safer. One of the big upsides to the switch in the route that we did that we're using Barrage, which is the gun ability, it made dealing with this next boss a lot easier. So you lose a lot fewer runs to this guy. To give you an idea how kind of difficult this guy is casually and from a speedrunning perspective, on later patches they actually patched in a free heal before him, but it's not there on this patch. One of the later patches basically flat gave almost every boss 15% or so extra HP, so we unfortunately do have to down patch this run to go as fast as possible. So they gave us one nice thing and then took away a nice thing. That's unfortunate. Okay. Usually he just sits still on the right side of the screen there and yeah, it just takes that barrage to the face. But now we gotta run through this area again, so if we have any more messages, feel free to get a couple more in. We gotta run around again.
Yeah, I've got a $2 donation from Gedrift, who says, "Let's get the incentive met. Also, Ouro, you are doing great, bud."
Thanks, Gedrift.
A lot of hype for you in Twitch chat as well as has been going on the entire run. The people love Ender Magnolia.
I appreciate that a lot, everybody. Thank you. That's rude.
When you first started speedrunning, were you beginner Magnolia?
I suppose I was. This game really does kind of have that, or this series kind of has that Final Fantasy vibe of, it's not really the last one. When is the Ender Magnolia, or when is the Ender gonna end?
The real Ender Magnolia was the friends we made along the way.
They have a lot more different kinds of flowers to go through first before they wrap the series up, for sure.
Godspeed to whoever plays Ender Chrysanthemum. That's one I don't want to try and spell in Twitch chat.
Alright. Alright, so now we just have one more boss left, and it's the final fight with Gilroy. We have one little neat piece of tech here to show off. So these barriers that we need Lars' Swift Flight to break have a pretty generous hitbox for how much you can hit them. So you're supposed to hit them directly, and there's a big puzzle to raise some walls that you're supposed to do. But we can just kind of hit the corner of it there and skip a lot of this area. We get the enemy out of the way just so it doesn't mess with us. Alright, and I'll just let this fight speak for itself. Hopefully it goes well. will be on the final cutscene skip, by the way. I'll make it pretty clear.
We're at almost $800, by the way, you guys.
Oh my god. Okay. Shoutouts to him going for his parry after I was already dead.
Sorry, I feel like I jinxed you just there.
No, you're all right. It kind of like all happened at the same time, so yeah, it just kind of happened. Oh my god.
あれ
Okay.
エンディング B になってるな、いつの間にか。いや、B なのか。そうか。
Can we get some hype going for Ouro, please, from the crowd?
Play that super safe, and time is going to be on this final cutscene skip here. And time.
はい、デッドゲームです。
That was the harder final boss that you basically donated for ending B. It's much harder than the ending A final boss. It just lasts a lot longer. That final attack he does is super scary. You have to route the ultimate charge very carefully.
エンディング A と B の違いは私は分かんないけど、いい方のエンディングなのかしら。
This is VGMCon. I feel like I have to, you know, give them a special shout out. They're just kind of a indie band that just really kills it. If you like the music you heard during this run, check them out. They have a lot of other stuff that's really good, fits the vibe of this game a lot. Shout outs to the rest of the runners of this, both of these games. My super good buddy Kizaron, who is probably going to end up pushing me to run Ender Lilies very soon here. And the two top Japanese. This game is a lot bigger in Japan actually as a speedrun.
グッドなエンディングの何がどうグッドなのかは、ぜひ自分で遊んで君の目で確かめよう。多分現在はやってないけれど、エンダー・マグノリア、前作のエンダーリリーズもわりかしそれなりの頻度でセールをしてたかなという記憶があるので、気になる方はいい時期を見計らってみるのもよろしいのかもしれません。というわけで、エンダー・マグノリアでした。続いてのタイトルの準備に移りますので、しばらくお待ちください。
What an amazing run, and we have plenty more where that came from. You have been watching Midwest Speedfest 2026. That's a charity speedrun marathon live from VGMCon. Over here near Minneapolis, Minnesota. We're going to be live all 3 days starting at 9:30 a.m. Central Time each day, showcasing more amazing speedruns just like this one. And this year we are supporting the P Fund Foundation's Emergency Fund. So everybody keep those donations coming and let's have a great weekend. We'll be right back.
す。